Hi, I'm Eduardo Neret with Campus Reform. Today we're at the University of Maryland. We're going to present students with Bernie Sanders' recent remarks on Castro and Cuba that he made in his recent 60 Minutes interview. We're not going to tell them that he said it or that it was about Cuba because we want to know which politician they would attribute these comments to, and we want to know if they're going to be surprised when they find out it was Bernie Sanders. All right, so over the weekend, one of the leading candidates in the upcoming election, very well-known politician in this country, was doing an interview, and in the interview, the question of a dictatorship, a certain dictatorship came up and its leader. It's a country that oppresses its people, abuses human rights, a lot of human rights violations. They kill their own dissidents. And instead of fully condemning the dictatorship, the politician sort of said, well, it's unfair to say that everything is bad about the country. And they pointed to a literacy program that the country has. Which politician do you think made this remark?
I'm going to make the assumption that it was Trump.
Trump?
I'm just gonna go with Trump.
Sounds like something he would do.
I mean, that just sounds like something that came from Trump himself.
I wouldn't expect a Democratic candidate to say something like this. So if I had to guess, it would be a Republican candidate. So I'm just going to guess Trump. But
okay. Who do you think said it?
Probably Trump.
The Democratic Party, at least in my mind, is associated more with more liberal views, human rights, that kind of thing, which seems to be in disagreement with some sort of dictatorial regime, as you said.
Wonder what your general thoughts are on the comment, on the idea of someone running for president defending a dictatorship like that. What are your thoughts?
I don't think that that's okay. I think we should stand up against issues that we find wrong, and obviously dictatorship is not a good thing for all of its people most of the time. I think it abuses a lot of the citizens, and it ends up leaving people disenfranchised.
I think in general, it makes sense to say, oh, it's unfair to say everything's bad, but I think that's definitely kind of making light of a bad situation.
I definitely think that it's an issue of comparing something like literacy to oppression.
I suppose everything's not black and white. There can be certain positive aspects about the regime.
Implying something along the lines of mass genocides or oppression of a civilization. I think comparing those kinds of actions to a literacy rate could lead to serious issues down the line. And
I would say it just speaks to the lack of substance, I guess, or care that the politician would have for the issue itself.
Would you be surprised if I told you that it was actually Bernie Sanders who made this remarks, and he made the remarks about Cuba? Does that surprise you at all?
I mean, in some ways, but not a lot.
That would make more sense, I think.
Why are you not surprised?
Just because they often come from the same idea where they just talk without thinking about what they're saying.
I'll also add, I'm less surprised now that I know it's Cuba, because I do know that they have really strong public health policies, actually more successful initiatives than the U.S. in some cases. So I don't think it's completely unreasonable to acknowledge the successes of that regime, even if there are human rights abuses.
No, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing to say. Well, like I said, there are good and bad things to every situation.
I would more expect Trump to say that than Bernie Sanders to say that, but
I am sort of categorically less surprised, but still, it's not something I would expect him to say.
And I also think that dismissing a country completely that has human rights abuses is just going to exacerbate the problem.
It's kind of closed-minded if you're trying to get as many ideas as possible.
Does it concern you at all that he seems to have a record and a history of sort of defending authoritarian dictatorial regimes and kind of praising some of the policies they have in place?
Yeah, a little bit, to be honest. I think his views are a little bit too radical, personally, for me.
It does concern me a little bit, yeah. He's just really extreme to me. I'm more of a moderate, so I fall somewhere in the middle, and he's just incredibly extreme with his ideas.
I guess I'd be slightly concerned.
Based on the information that was given, there is some lines of concern for me.
It doesn't concern me any more than I'm concerned about Trump.
I have a feeling that it's probably because Cuba has some sort of relation to the Sanders campaign and what he's fighting for on his presidential campaign.
He's just very, very, very socialist for my liking, and so a lot of his politics fall on an extreme that's very far away from where I want to be.
How's it going? I'm Eduardo Neret with Campus Reform. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to subscribe to get our latest content, click right here. If you're interested in joining our team as a correspondent or an investigator, click there. And if you want to donate to make sure we can create more great content like this, click right here.